Well, hello everyone, my name is KasumiSan and welcome to my PC tutorial on how to fly the attack helicopter. In part 1 I will discuss the unlocks, which ones are useful, which ones are useless, and how to use them. When you first go into the customization screen, this is what you'll see. If you haven't flown the attack helicopters yet, you will have nothing unlocked. Everything is empty, no upgrades, no extra weapons whatsoever. In order to unlock these, you'll have to kill enemies, disable or destroy vehicles, or cap objectives while in the helicopter. Now the first thing you unlock is also the most important one. It's the IR flares. Now the reason that these are so important is they will distract incoming missiles while deployed, causing them to hit the flares instead of you, and you can fly on. Not everyone knows how to use the flares, so I will teach you how to use them. First of all, you need to know when someone is actually locking on you, when someone is locked on you, and when someone is firing a missile at you. Most people make the mistake to deploy their flares when someone is locked onto them, not when someone is firing a missile at them already. Now this is a mistake because of this. When someone is locked onto you and you deploy your flares, they will lose their target. But why is this a bad thing? When the person who is locked onto you hasn't actually fired their missile yet, and you have already deployed your flares, they can easily lock onto you again without having to reload and without you having a flare. Now how do you know when someone is actually trying to lock onto you? There are two things that will appear when someone is trying to lock onto you. The first thing is in the HUD. There will pop up a message saying lock. Now the second thing is there will be a low-toned bleep. When someone is actually locked onto you, the message will stop blinking and the bleep will turn into a continuous low tone. When this happens, you'll want to be ready to deploy your flares. Once someone fired the missile, you will hear a high-toned bleep, bleeping like mad, and you will have to deploy your flares. Now in this clip there's coming up a moment where I have to deploy my flares and you will see how it is done. Another important thing to know is when your flares are actually coming back up. There will be a sound indicating that your flares are back up and ready for use. Now that you know how to use the flares, let's move on to the second unlock, stealth. This basically makes it harder for enemies to lock and track you, and will also decrease the time you're being spotted. I strongly recommend using this one because it's really useful and an awesome beginner perk. The next thing you unlock are the heat seekers. These missiles will lock into enemy jets or helicopters so you can easily take them down. And this is how they work. You can select the heat seekers by pressing 2 on the keyboard. This will change your HUD a little bit. And once you aim at an aircraft, there will come up a little square, which isn't really a complete square, and you will hear a bleeping sound. Once you're locked onto the enemy aircraft, the square will become complete and you will hear a continuous tone, and then you can fire your missiles. One thing I like to do when firing at enemy aircraft is fire only one missile to let them trigger their flares, and then save the next one for when you're locked onto the aircraft again. This helps you get on the target real quick again after they deploy the flares, and makes it really easy to take them down. The next unlock is Autoloader. This basically decreases the reloading time from your main guns. That counts for both the rockets in the pilot seat and the machine gun in the gunner seat. I only use this in the gunner seat and not in the pilot seat, because for the pilot seat there are way better unlocks than this one, and if you still haven't unlocked those good unlocks, it's way better to use the stealth one than this one. The next 3 things you unlock are pretty useless. I've never used them and I don't plan on ever using them, so I'm not really gonna go deep into those. The first one of these 3 is for the gunner seat only and is zoom optics. This one is not very useful in my opinion, and I rather use flares for an extra pair of flares instead of this one until I've unlocked something better. The second one is proximity scan, and this reveals enemy tanks and infantry on your minimap. And the third one is air radar. This basically does the same as proximity scan, but now it reveals enemy aircraft on your minimap. It also increases the range of your minimap. Once you've unlocked these three, you're getting to the good stuff. You can now unlock the guided missile, which can lock onto enemy vehicles on the ground. These basically work the same as heat seekers. You lock them on the vehicle, release them, and destroy it. The guided missile is not a one-hit kill, so when you fire the missile you can switch back to the machine gun, start firing at your target, and destroy it. Next up are two more not so useful unlocks. One of them being Extinguisher. Once your chopper is disabled, you can use this by pressing X, and it will recover your aircraft from being disabled to being operational again. And the next one is Maintenance. This one increases the speed at which your aircraft auto repairs. Next up is a really useful one for the gunner seat. It's Thermal Optics. You can activate this one by pressing the right mouse button, and it makes acquiring targets really easy. And the next unlock is Laser Painter. With this one equipped, you can mark targets for your gunner to fire at with the guided missile. I haven't really used this one yet, but I can really see this being useful when using Skype or other communication with the gunner. The next one is a bit different than the other unlocks. It's called Below Radar, and once you unlock this, it's a permanent upgrade, so you don't have to equip it or anything, it's just there. And what this one does is, when you're flying low, you're basically immune to anti-air missile systems. It feels like this is currently a bit bugged, because I get locked onto when I'm flying low sometimes anyway, but it's a really useful thing, and it makes stealth a bit less useful, so you can swap that one out for something else if you prefer that. If you get this far, you've almost unlocked everything, and the next one is Ecm Jammer. When used, this one will prevent enemies from locking on to you for a short while, but I prefer flares over this one. And then on to the last two unlocks. The first one is Guided Rockets. This one replaces the rockets for the pilot with semi-guided rockets, which makes it easier to aim at tanks or other vehicles. A little tip when shooting at vehicles from a distance: put your crosshair a bit below the vehicle itself so the rockets will hit. And something else, a lot of people probably don't know this, but you can reload your rockets in the pilot seat by pressing R. I didn't know this either, but someone told me this in the comments in one of my videos, so thank you for that. And last but certainly not least, we have the TV missile. You might recognize this from Battlefield 2, and it's back in Battlefield 3. This missile is basically fired and steered with the mouse, and you can lead it to the target. It feels quite bugged at the moment. Sometimes it bounces off vehicles, it doesn't register, the hitboxes seem a bit off, but when it does work, it's really awesome. I prefer this one over the guided missile, just because it's way more fun to use. And this concludes part 1 of my guide to attack helicopters. I hope you liked it, and I will be back with part 2, which will cover the basics of flying the chopper. I would like to say special thanks to LolWat for helping me out while recording this, and I will see you next time. Peace out.